Hi, I'm David Young, and I'm excited that my new book, Home in the Wilderness, has been released. It is the third novel in my wilderness trilogy. And I want to read to you from one of the exciting events recorded in the book. Rain had stopped by the fourth morning. Fog swirled up from the river and covered the little farm. Jonathan left the house early to see the fields. The children helped their mother with indoor chores, peering out into the silver wasteland of mist and shrouded trees. By noon, the sun broke through the haze and warmed the afternoon. With their parents busy with work they could not do during the storm, James and Grace walked down to the river. Lightning, one of their big mastiffs, followed them. Thunder stayed with Jonathan, who was cutting firewood and stacking it to dry. The children sat on a rock overlooking the river. It was warm enough for them to unbutton their jackets. Grace was talking about something. James was not really listening. Suddenly, lightning raised his great head on alert. Grace had begun talking to her doll since she had to repeat herself twice to James. "Be still," he told her, holding out the flat of his hand. "Do you hear something?" she asked. He shook his head, still motioning for Grace to be silent. Suddenly lightning set up a great howl. "Go get Papa," James commanded. Something in his voice kept her from arguing. Always protecting, the dog was torn between staying to face the intruder and following the girl. "Go with Grace," James commanded. Lightning turned and caught up with the running girl in a couple of bounds. The two ran toward the sound of Jonathan's axe somewhere beyond the house. An Indian, stripped to the waist, paddled a canoe up the river. His appearance seemed to call the men who loitered at the trading post where the river spilled into the Columbia to fearful attention. Not only were his canoe and dress obviously cayuse, but his well-muscled chest bore the ugly scars of a seasoned warrior. He passed on up the river toward Jonathan and Lily's home. The Indian pushed his canoe up to Jonathan and Lily's dock. Coming up the path, he stopped about 20 paces from a small boy looking intently at him. The boy stood with his right hand on a tree. A leather sling hung from his left, swinging in small circles. The stone in the pouch was at least as large as the boy's fist. Most grown men, and certainly a cayuse warrior, would have disregarded the boy. But the Indian sensed how quick and accurately this boy could hurl a stone. The two stood staring at one another for some time. Two monstrous dogs came growling and barking down the path from the house. They stood bristling, barely restrained on either side of the boy. The Indian ignored the dogs, continuing to look at the boy. Jonathan topped the upper bank with Grace riding on his shoulders. "Stay," he commanded the dogs. Lily came behind Jonathan with Beth in her arms. "Samaritan!" she cried with joy. Jonathan put a hand on James's shoulder. "This man saved our lives at least twice," Lily added. Samaritan, still without a smile, said, "And you gave me mine." "Come, Samaritan," Lily said. "Supper is nearly ready, and we are thrilled to have you join us." Samaritan's eyes were still fixed on James. As he drew near, he spoke seriously. "Have you heard the story of David and Goliath?" James nodded his head. "Samaritan, first hear story from your father." Jonathan and Lily and their little family are forced to leave their farm near Fort Vancouver and finding a place to plant their home in a new and desperate wilderness. They face the challenges of life and death and find God faithful.